second session of Data Analytics. My name is Anuj Bhalla, and our host today is Paul Hobbs. Please silence your phones during the session. Also, no videos. I'm also a robot. I do apologize about that. But you guys do welcome to the Business Analytics track for DataCon 2023. Today we have our guest, Anuj Bhalla. He is he will be talking about our cross-generative AI and the opportunities for AI in customer service, a very pertinent thing in our day-to-day. A little bit about Anuj. Anuj is an entrepreneur, data science, MIT Sloan Fellow, and blue chip consultant with more than 15 years of experience in consulting the customer service industry. He leads the service analytics practice at Accenture, where he works with some of the largest companies in the world. Being a graduate of UC Berkeley with a bachelor's in applied mathematics, he is a data scientist and mathematician at heart. Before founding serviceMob, he graduated from MIT Sloan MBA and was honored with a Sloan Fellowship. He was featured in Entrepreneur Magazine, Forbes, and was recognized by MIT as a top 25 MIT startup founder. He brings a decade of service in the industry and technology expertise to serviceMob, where he's redefining the world of customer service and is making all of our experiences better as a result of it. And guys, with that, please welcome me and joining Anuj Bhalla.
Nice to be here. I was here at DataCon last year, and there wasn't still kind of post-pandemic. Didn't have nearly as many people. Who hates customer service? I think that's like about 100%. Okay, so that's a pretty good sample. It's not scientific, but I think it jives with reality to some level. That customer service kind of sucks. It's something we have to deal with a lot, right? All of us have to contact an airline, a hotel company, a telecom. You know, you got to call Verizon and AT&T every now and then. And you guys are probably wondering, in the age, 2023, here we are, and customer service still sucks. We got GPT writing our essays. Who's students? Who has GPT right? No, that's a trap. On video, you won't get, but you have these powerful AI modules in this day and age. Last year I was talking about Elon Musk, sending rockets into space and then landing them back on the launch pad. That's a very complex physics problem. It's interesting. I was just talking to some friends at Tesla, and they just got out of a meeting, with the leadership, with Elon Musk, and they were talking about how the #1 problem Tesla is going to face in the next 10 years. It's not the physics of landing a rocket. It's or the physics of maybe making a better battery, things they might deal with in SpaceX or Tesla, respectively. The biggest problem they see is going to be competing in the world of customer experience and customer service. 10 years, a decade, Tesla had this monopoly, right? They had this monopoly on higher end electric cars, and now everyone is coming out of the woodwork, right? Audi's got a car, Mercedes got a car, Porsche. Everyone's got an electric car at the top end of the market and the bottom end of the market. And the #1 place they feel like they are going to lose market share if they don't fix this is going to be customer experience. So service is everywhere. It's really important to us. It's not going away as long as there's still human customers. I don't see it going away in any way, shape, or form. And it's something we all have to deal with. But still, in this day and age, it's still pretty bad. So what our talk is about is the cross-generative AI. What the hell does that mean, right? Cross-generative AI, you probably guessed it from the weird, kind of touching of hands here between cyborg, robot, and human. But where are opportunities that humans and AI can really come together and make disproportionate impact in this market? And here's my promise, probably for decades to come. Because I think everyone thinks we're going to be taken over by the bots. I may have a different opinion on that, and we'll get to what that really means. So, I think Courtney, right? You did a great job introducing me. I used to work at Accenture. I worked there for 53 quarters. Terrible joke. So, why I say that is that, when you're working with the biggest companies in the world, guys, you're working quarter to quarter, trying to make results happen. You're trying to push out that next release. You're trying to make sure you hit those numbers. And so had a long career working with some of the coolest companies in the world. At that time, it was the Googles, it was the Amazons, it's the, Facebook Meta, eBay. So also working with some of the biggest banks in the world, some of the biggest energy companies and telecoms. So had a lot of time over there. I did my undergrad at UC Berkeley. I was applied math and computer science before they even had the term analytics, so I'm dating myself a little bit, but I was doing machine learning before it was called machine learning. I was, working with big data when it was called little data, I guess. I don't know. So, but long career. I'm a data scientist by heart. I love data. I've never refused data policy, and I believe if you are a serious data scientist in the audience, a student, maybe a young professional, never refuse data. That's an important thing just to remember. I think that's a good thing for the career. So cross-generative AI, we hear the term generative AI. We get these things called, large language models. These are really probabilistic models. It's like ChatGPT, but guess what, guys? It's a war of the $1 trillion companies out there, as you probably have realized. You saw Google come out with Bard. It's not so great to launch, but really good product, and a lot of OpenAI's GPT is based on the models that Google had really created. I would say really over the past 7 to 8 years. And then, you have Llama, which is coming out by, Meta. You also have Hugging Face. Maybe, in the student community, you're probably using a little bit more of that. But guess what? Amazon and their $1 trillion hands are getting into that open source world as well, just to know a little bit more about how you're using it and what use cases really drive value. Cross-generative AI is going to say, well, where are going to be opportunities that humans and these very powerful AI models can come together? And I think this is going to be the important thing because, presumably you guys have a lot of student debt. You're going to want to get those jobs, and hopefully your jobs are not replaced by AI. But will it be? I mean, this is the question. And if we believe for a second that it won't, then it's going to be incredibly important to know where these opportunities are going to lie. Right? Because, if your job is going to be writing marketing copy tomorrow, I'm sorry to tell you, I don't think that job's going to exist too much longer. Right? Some of these things we're regurgitating this world of understanding the knowledge, the existing knowledge we know. Some of these things, if your job is, writing creative essays, in the style of the notorious B.I.G. and, you want to write it in limericks or something like that, this can do things way better than humans can do. It has superpowers better than any one of us. It's the collective wisdom, the collective knowledge of everything that's really been digitized over really the last decade. The 2010s was really about the digitization era. And that digitization era has really led to the ability to feed knowledge into these tools. So, when we went through .com in the 90s, you went through client server to cloud, in the 2000s, in the 2010s, we went through digitization. Now we're going through all of that was important to lead to this, now 30+ year journey into artificial intelligence and some of the powerful things it could do today. But if we are going to survive as a human workforce, we have to figure out where these opportunities exist or, risk essentially getting replaced. But like I said, I have a point of view on that hopefully is a little more optimistic. Here's the dirty secret in customer service, though. So bringing it back to the industry where I'm in, customer service is always, it's like a World Series of use cases because it's so much data, so much information. Think of the interactions that you have. It used to just be the call center, right? Calls on the phone and wait on hold for the next available agent. Now it's you can call, you can chat, you can email, SMS, you can WhatsApp and WeChat, and you can tweet your discontent to a company, right? So many different ways that consumer and companies can interact. And why AI is such an important thing in this industry is because everyone's looking for an edge. There's so much information, so much cost. When you think about the payroll that an AT&T, that a Comcast, you guys are younger, or Roblox, right? Like what are some of these companies spending on customer service? It is in the billions in just payroll itself. That doesn't even cause, forget technology. That includes outsourcing and labor arbitrage. That includes, going to low-cost markets and repatriation back to, even more expensive markets. But we're literally talking billions. So when you're able to shave a percent, when you're able to find that little bit of edge that you can use technology on, you're talking about use cases that are probably in the millions. And that's very important to companies, right? So you're going to see a lot of testing in the world of customer service because there's just a ton of structured and unstructured data for data scientists like me to play with. And that's awesome, right? It's a good spot. It may not be, it's not the sexiest industry. It's not rocket ships. It's not, batteries and maybe solving, the climate problem, but it's a lot of data. And if you love data, this is a good spot where data scientists are probably going to be welcome and in demand more so than a lot of other industries. That said, AI has been in customer service for a long time. And here's the dirty secret, guys. A lot of the chatbots that you hate, they've been using GPT for a few years now. All right, so, we use ChatGPT. We're like, look at this. Billions of data points that we have out there. And it's giving me an exact. It's like, okay, I gotta write this essay on, I gotta write this essay on, how, you pick something like how the development of, lithium mines have come into play and how human rights abuses have increased since the era of, batteries, right? I gotta write this. Put that into GPT, you're going to get something back that's pretty good, right? Again, billions of data points, all this information that's out there that it can, combobulate. We use discombobulate, but what if we combobulate information together quickly and get that into a coherent essay? Look, I'm done with my assignment. I'm all good, right? Again, based on collective knowledge, billions of data points. What if you don't have those data points? Are you going to get that kind of result? And that's the false expectation that we've got to be careful of, right? When you have access to the world and the access of democratized free information, that's great. But guess what? Not all information is democratized. A lot of it is siloed. A lot of it is proprietary. It has owners, right? A lot of companies, they have private information. You, as consumers, have private information here in California that you could say, Facebook, Google, Amazon, you can't use my information. Those little pop-ups that you get every time you log on, it's got that California Digital Rights Act. You can say you can't use my information. Data is becoming more proprietary. And so access to those silos of information are going to be critical for you to get the kind of response that you might expect for this award-winning essay. You might say, wow, that's so good. Why can't we just use that for chatbots? They already are. The problem is that they don't have the billions of data points of information to make that response that good. And guess what happens when you don't have enough information? These are probabilistic models, right? It's probabilities. So what does it do? Does anyone know? You get hallucinations, right? Hallucinated solutions, right? It starts making stuff up. even worse. Imagine the liability for companies where you have a serious issue about a problem. Maybe it's a health-related problem. Maybe you're calling it healthcare done, and it gives you a hallucinated solution. Gives you something that's fake, something that's not going to really help you. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen, right? So those are the kinds of things that businesses, as they look to adopt these technologies, they have to think 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 steps down the chessboard before they just say, let's adopt this, right? Now, you're going to see people jump the gun, and you're going to see a lot of mistakes happen in between. And there's been, like I said, when Google launched, they had a public forum. We're launching Bard, and they're asking it questions, and the whole world saw the wrong answers come back. That doesn't engender trust, right? And it's not going to help people move any faster to adopt these technologies until they have the trust in the underlying data sets. And that's going to be an incredibly important theme as we go forward. So why haven't the bots taken over? If that's the case, if we're so far along, why haven't the bots taken over? I kind of alluded to it already. It's not so much a bot problem. These models are good, right? If it had perfect access to all information that was all out there, and it was all digitized and all accessible, maybe it'd be pretty good. But even then, there's going to be use cases where it's not. And so let me spit some philosophy here. This is this is pretty much the state of customers code support, AI chatbots. I hope it's not too soon. I feel bad for Chris Rock actually, but I don't feel bad for chatbots though. Sometimes they deserve a good slap in the digital face. That said, this is the way a lot of people feel when their answers are not really met, or when we're not getting the answers or resolutions that they really need to the critical problems they have. And sometimes those problems are small, they're routine, maybe they're not the end of the world, but like sometimes it could be life and death. Sometimes it could be a lot more serious, especially as the world of service is increasing. Service as a GDP is growing, right? So, if we're all going to become service economies, as 3D printers are doing all our manufacturing in the future and moving that away from our GDP, we're going to be in this service economy where we have to figure this out. This is going to be one of the critical problems, I believe, of tomorrow that we have to really understand. And so the big reason here is, bad data, right? And it's not always bad data, but it could be incomplete data. AI is only as good as the data inputs. Sometimes there's too few edge cases for AI to really train on. And that's where you get that hallucination effect. And then on top of that, you get very, complex resolutions that may not have enough of a precedence for AI to be good enough to handle on its own. And as you can probably imagine, this might be the beginnings of where we're talking about opportunities for collaboration. So lack of observability is the real problem in the world of customer service. This is something that I've dedicated my career to trying to solve. But the data is disparate, it's disjointed, and everything you hate about customer service is really based in root cause on this problem, right? And you can go to other industries like supply chain, go to HR, you can go to, space physics. I don't care what industry you go in. The biggest problems that are happening today are because of a lack of the information that you need to help you drive the right conclusion. So this is why we have unproductive agents. This is why we have longer wait times. This is why we have that higher cost to serve. These are all the symptoms that are creating kind of the disdain for customer service that we really saw at the outset, right? About 100% of people don't love it, right? That said, and is it possible? I think it's like slightly off. Yeah, there we go.
Gotcha.
So for this one in particular, this is a little bit theoretical, right? But bear with me for a second. If you took the world today and this is, bigger than customer service for a second, right? If you took the world today and you broke it into two parts, right? One is the known universe. This is the known, all the known data, all the known ideas, inputs. Think of anything that could be data, books, articles, internet, chats, anything that could be out there. That's the known universe of information. You're either in that camp or you're in another camp, which is going to be the unknown area, right? And I think intuitively we all kind of understand that the world of the unknown is way bigger than the known, right? But if you represent the known as kind of a square, right? And we know that this square, is kind of growing. We're always growing the amount of knowledge that we have. There's that statistic that the amount of digital data, the amount of information that we're storing in a year is more than all of human history combined before us. So what we will do in 2023 will be more than 2022 and everything before us. That's a crazy stat. So we know that this is growing. The world of at least digital codified information is growing. What AI is going to do is it's going to help us have that superpower to recall, regurgitate, search for, find the answers in this vast ocean of the world's knowledge. It's going to be Google supercharged, at another level, right? What Google was in the 2000s, now AI is going to help us find answers, bespoke answers, give it to us in a way that we can semantically understand, translate it to our cognitive understanding better than anything that's come before it. And we know that that world of the known information is expanding. But also, if you look at the perimeter, right? The perimeter, what I call the frontier of the unknown, the perimeter against the unknown is also expanding. So this really represents people, functions, areas where we are converting unknown data into known data, right? And that really, in that perimeter, is where I believe the opportunities for cross-gen AI really exist. Because here, inside the square, inside kind of the solid line, that's going to be AI trainable. If your job is here, right at that X, you're in the danger zone. Your job probably may not exist. That's my prediction. If you're square in the middle of that, you've got to be careful. What I predict is not so much that we'll be replaced, but I expect a migration of the types of jobs that are going to be in demand, just like technology has done over time. We don't have a lot of horse and buggy, riders anymore because the automobile showed up, right? Tomorrow, we might not have some of these jobs in the middle of the knowledge economy because AI can probably do that better than any one of us. Where the opportunities are going to be is kind of in between this, dashed line and the solid line square. Where that really exists is edge cases, right? Literally where AI is not good enough to replace humans, right? There's not enough data for it to, understand how to completely replace and do your job. And I'll give you an example of what that means. But then also, here in that frontier of the unknown, which, is kind of that zone in the middle, I predict a migration of those jobs, right? So migration of those functions. We don't need people to regurgitate information that we know anymore. We're going to be really good at that with AI. But really on these edge cases, on the frontier, people who are converting unknown data to known data, that's going to be something that's incredibly important. In the medical field, that could be doing medical research, right? That could be, doing research on DNA to find the strands that cause a certain type of brain cancer. In the world of customer service, it just represents a lot of the cases that aren't as frequent or prevalent. AI isn't good enough to solve those problems because of that hallucination effect. So what you want to do is combine the power of AI that allows you to kind of be a superhuman with the known knowledge of your specific universe. But on top of that, use the power of human reasoning to help solve and resolve those edge cases for people. And I think that's going to be the big change that we see over the number of years. What are we seeing in the world of customer service? I don't know if anyone knows who this is. This is what's that? Yeah, all right. So the death of the 80-20 rule is what you're seeing in customer service. This is fascinating. This is absolutely fascinating. 15 years ago, the number one reason why people would call or contact a bank, guess what? Yeah, you guys were probably barely born by then, but guess what? It was, what's my balance? Number one, millions of dollars, guys, millions, tens of millions, maybe collectively hundreds or even billions if you added up all the big banks at that time. What's my balance? Right? Now you're like laughing. I got online banking, man. I can log in. I can see this. I get alerts, text alerts. It's like telling me my spend. I got, applications that are kind of monitoring, all my credit cards and all my bank accounts. So, what's my balance? Who needs it? It used to be that 20% of the issues represented 80% of the volume in these contact centers. What we've seen as an analytics company over time, and this is cross-industry, not just banks, is that 80% of the volume is increasingly represented by 80% of the issues. So what is getting to humans today? It's not what's my balance. It's, hey, an Eastern European identity theft ring stole $250,000 out of my account and it's missing. How often does that happen? Not enough for you to deal with a chatbot. Right? That's what's happening in this world today. And so as that changes, right, as the 80-20 rule gets decimated in the world of service, you're not getting the standard, normal curve of distribution. You're getting the Z function where all of these, different issues, it's not like, 5 issues are causing most of the pain. It's, it's death by 1,000 paper cuts. Everyone is getting, as our products. Remember, supports the products or services people sell in market. What's happening to our products and services? They're getting complicated. They're getting more personalized, right? I can sell the same product to you, but it's personalized to you versus me. I'm different. I have different credit score. I have a different whatever. It's going to cater differently to me. So as we get more personalized, as we go through faster product cycles, we get 2 iPhones a year, right? So as you go through these things, you are going to always be back in this zone, this frontier. And by the way, as this square expands, so does this perimeter. There's going to be more room for workers in that perimeter, right? So not all hope is lost, right? But really, the opportunity in this perimeter is going to be using the best of human reasoning for some of these really bespoke edge cases, which are becoming more of the norm. And as a result, there may always be not just a need for service, an increasing one. And guess what? The number of customer service workers is not going down with all this technology. It's actually ironically going up because the pie is getting bigger, because the needs are getting more complicated, because we do have products that are more personalized. So even adjusted for, kind of world economy, repatriation, here in the US, but also around the world, the number of contact center seats is actually growing. The need for humans in this business is not shrinking, it's growing. And that's going to be predicted. 5 years from now here at DataCon, you'll say, was the news right or not? I think I will be, because this is the exact trend that we're seeing, is that the hard questions are hard to automate away, but the easy ones are. And we've been doing a good job of that over time, right? We're not calling about balances anymore, right? But now, we're stuck with the harder issues. And you may never get enough volume of those issues in 10 years to properly train an AI. That's the hard part. And even then, even if you did, 10 years from now, we'll be laughing about, I guess, identity theft rings as as being something that people call banks about, right? If we're even calling it by that. So, you know, so in the $1 trillion war of AI, who is really going to be the winner? Is it Facebook, Google, Microsoft? You know, they all have a horse in this race, so to speak, right? But in the $1 trillion war of AI, the winner is going to be, ironically, not the holders of AI. If you see what's already happening, every call to OpenAI is getting cheaper and cheaper. You do it $20 a month, get your premium subscription. Google wants to come out, they're talking about free. You know, Hugging Face is already open source. You know, free 95 to do a call on AI, right? It's a race to the bottom when you have this level of commoditization. So where's the value going to be? The value equation is going to shift not to who has the best AI, it's who has the best data, who has access to most useful proprietary data that's going to apply to a valuable use case. And in this world where data isn't free and it's increasingly becoming less free, who has that access? Who's going to allow you to get access to that data set is going to be incredibly important. Because that's going to matter in the world of, you know, tomorrow. It's not who has the best AI, it's going to be who has the best data set on top of which to apply that AI that is probably going to win.
So is China going to win?
What's that?
Is China going to win?
Well, as a consumer market, who's generating the most data?
They have all the data of all the people.
And it could be. It's going to be who owns it, right? And so, you know, even if you have, you know, a manufacturing facility, who owns that data is going to matter more. Not where, you know, it's not necessarily Foxconn that may have all the data, let's say for Apple, it's probably Apple, right? They're demanding data out of their suppliers so that they can make the most to sell you more goods and services, which I think they're pretty good at. So, all right. So what are the new applications? You know, so look, sabermetrics for contact center, right? You know, imagine a match.com where, you know, we can figure out who's the best agent to handle, you know, your issue, Christian, right? What do I know about you and what do I know about my workforce and what do I know about the problems and products and services that you're having? And who's the best person in this room to solve it? Can I make that decision in near real time? And if I do, what kind of arbitrage, what kind of savings can I get out of it? It's amazing. Think about it. There's a case study. It's something we did with a Fortune 500 MSO, which is fancy word for like, you know, cable internet provider, you know, internet service provider / cable company, right? Telecom. But one of the things we were able to use is, you know, use a combination of customer service information and real-time telemetry and voice of the customer data using some of these large language models. And from this, we were able to actually predict where a lot of burst errors, forward error correction, things that slow down your internet, which we all hate, right? We all are in the digital economy. We all still have an internet service provider. This is incredibly important for our digital infrastructure. But we could actually see where and what devices were most likely to fail across millions and millions of customers, hundreds of thousands of nodes, and literally you know, what we're processing, like 2.8 billion records every 6 seconds. That's how much information we're pulling together. And part of what we're doing was trying to figure out if we could predict where these nodes were going to fail before they actually failed, we could actually utilize the human workforce, the field service workforce, to do predictive maintenance of these. If you're able to solve this issue faster before there's a real issue, you can actually, you know, blunt that cost curve pretty quickly and save a company a ton of money, especially when it comes to the maintenance of these networks that provide the basis of our digital lifestyle. And what we were able to do is create that predictive program we were able to save over 30 million in revenue. We could help them focus, the human workforce focus, on where the problems were going to be before they happen. And this is a cross between using what you're getting in conversation, unstructured data, also with structured data, resolution, what we find in, contact centers, and then operational data like rolling trucks. All of these have massive, massive expense. And we were able to save over $30 million to their bottom line as a result of trying to essentially putting in place a predictive maintenance program for this customer service and field service operation. We were also able to do demand shifting. This was for a B2B SaaS company, one of the biggest, probably pre-IPO companies, Cloud 100 company, right? Actually here in the Southern California. But we were actually able to use machine modified live models, right? So, don't just, rely on predictions from a long time ago. Can we modify our machine learning generated forecasts in real time based on what we're seeing, almost creating, this continuous model again with hundreds of millions of data points? We were able to, improve efficiency, and productivity by 30 to 40%. This actually lowered burnout because you were aligning supply and demand a lot better. So labor supply versus contact demand. So not to get too technical in the world of service, but these are the things that operators care about in our industry. And then we were able to improve the RMSE, so the root mean squared error. No exam after this, but we were able to improve that 3 to 5x, by doing modifications on real time. And again, this was a captive audience with B2B, so allowing customer choice to come into the algorithm, adding that as an option in the digital world where you can drive demand shifting to better points of the labor supply curve. Right? So these are things that we can accurately predict, but if you're using that live information, now you can make live real-time modifications and getting you 3 to 5x better results without having to do this 2 or 3 or 4 weeks ago. So, you're using the best of the crystal ball plus the best of like live patterns to get you to somewhere even better. Again, another victory for, I would say, cross-gen AI. And then, a routing strategy, so again, imagine intelligent routing. This was something that we saw that was incredibly powerful. We used a lot of AI and machine learning models to come up with, and then this was for a healthcare payer in the Medicare Advantage space, publicly traded company. And we were able to show that, hey, if you contact, your provider once or twice, 3 times, 4 times, you would get annoyed, right? 3, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. Like the more you contact, the more effort you're putting in, and the more you get annoyed. Also, the more time that you're going to spend. And this is what we saw is if you kind of go up into the right, if you look at those red arrows, you're actually talking to a different person every subsequent contact about your issue. And one thing that we saw was the average minutes per resolution blew up. So, if you were talking to 4 people and you contacted 4 times, which is the incumbent case, this company is spending 132 minutes to resolve an issue. Guess what if you're talking to 1 person over 4 issues? 19 minutes. Multiply that by hundreds of thousands, if not millions of issues in a year, you're talking about tens of millions of dollars of savings right off the bat. And you have a strategy on how to use intelligent automation, AI, into your routing strategy to get it to the best place at the best time. In this case, it's indicating that the best person to handle your issue was the last person who handled your issue. And that's a concept of ownership. Can I see your problem to resolution? If you're dealing with me, you don't perceive this. And what's interesting is when we looked at this against churn, when we looked at this against customer satisfaction, we actually saw the same shape and pattern. Not just time and efficiency and money to these companies, but also customer satisfaction and churn rates, retention. And then, another thing that we're doing here at the Mob, look, we announced I think 2 months ago, we announced at MIT our, integration with GPT-4, right? But even some of the tedious tasks, I don't know, who out here is actually in the workforce already, but you got to do performance reporting. You got to do OKRs, right? You got to set your goals for the quarter, right? Imagine a workforce of 10,000 agents trying to do this 4 times a year, right? That's a lot of management time writing essays on your performance. Each one of you are a unique little snowflake, right, who has their own data and information. I got to cull that all together and write these reports for 20 of my direct reports that are under me. Now you can automate that in a second because of that proprietary data advantage, right? This data doesn't exist on Wikipedia or on the ether and the internet, right? This is data that you can only get, and it's changing. It's like the stock market, right? Every second, every minute that you're taking information, you're getting new data, new information. That's a great collaboration again between, something that's human driven and human performance objectively driven. And now, how you can use these large language models to gain efficiency and advantage into these companies. So leveraging better analytics and generative AI, look, enhancing human job performance through analytics, this is going to be very important, I think, going forward. It already is part of our ether today, but in that frontier, in that part of that perimeter where, we're going to be, I believe migrating, a lot of jobs will migrate to that perimeter. Analytics is going to be the lifeblood of how we not just generate and gather and understand new information, but also feed that into our expanding knowledge of the known universe, which I think, again, creates new opportunities as that square expands and that perimeter expands as well. I think we got to figure out, can we amplify our powers? I think a lot of people hear prompt engineering, those kinds of things. I think that'll be its own engineering course at Viterbi not too long in the future, right? Where prompt engineering and how you deal with AI and the inputs of AI are going to matter toward the quality of outputs that you get. The more you bring to the AI to the table, and I think you could test this out on GPT. You could just say, tell me about, lithium mines, and it'll just give you an answer. The more you put into it, the better output and quality output you're going to get, right? It's like, oh, well, please mention this, and please mention that, and please make sure to emphasize this. You're going to get a much better result the more you bring to the table. And I think that's going to be key, because as this superpower becomes democratized, as we all have the ability to drive recall and the ability to generate information, translate it in a way that others can understand very quickly, what we bring to the table is now suddenly going to matter even more, and it's going to be amplified. So your domain expertise, your ability to understand something really well is going to help you get better outputs through the AI you're interacting with. And then, I think this is really, again, important for generally the future of work. So bringing it all together, I think, at least in the world of customer service, I think customer service frontline agents might be the first refugees, right, in the migration toward the perimeter of AI. I think AI has automated away a lot of stuff that is routine and easy. Now what you're getting are people who are becoming more experts in handling very tough and bespoke problems. It's still incumbent, by the way, that they're using AI to help support them in doing that job. So again, it's not going to fully replace agents, but in our world, I believe it's going to help them, solve those issues that are kind of on the fringe, solve those issues that AI is not good enough to solve on its own. And then the biggest opportunities, like I said, are going to be in the data sets. So enriching those data sets, contributing, being manufacturers of data, not just consumers, but being manufacturers of data into the world of information we know is going to matter even more. And like I said, the real winners in the AI era is not going to be who has the best LLM. You know, you can go out there and you could try to, you know, go against the $1 trillion companies and create a good LLM. There's going to be a handful of winners in that space. Absolutely. Right. But I believe that it's, you know, where the real value is going to be generated is who's going to have the best data properties on top of which you can build skyscrapers of value, right? You know, on top of that good integral data property, if you have the best data property in the future, if you have something that's valuable and accessible and has a use case that people find valuable, and, you know, I think throwing in there something around novel information, right? So new information that you're bringing from the unknown world to the known world, that could be the future, that could be real-time data, that could be a lot of things that we just don't know yet. That information from the frontier enriching your data set is going to give you kind of an AI-proof advantage as long as you're, you know, playing on that frontier. So thank you so much. You know, I really appreciate the time today, and you know, happy to take any questions.
Fix the mic, it's no longer broken. So if you don't have any questions about this man trying to revolutionize the world for managers, for them to write all these reviews for everybody, I would appreciate that sooner than later. Take questions, of course.
First of all, great talk. That was my favorite AI talk of the day. So thank you. So what I got out of this entire presentation is that data engineering is the most important skill to learn right now.
I think it's incredibly important, and here's where I would get you. If I was in school, I would say it's not just data engineering; it's a combination of, you know, data engineering, which is one, you could say there's the science of like, how do I deal with large volumes, ridiculous volumes of data. Two, engineering, but from a standpoint of ontology building, right? So building not just, look, an AI can learn chess, right?
Yes.
It can learn chess. The best AI models out there, like, you know, we used to have Deep Blue and IBM and all those things. One of the models that crushed all of these other ones, you know, is playing at a rate of like 3,400 now, was one that, you know, used machine learning, you know, to try to just play games simply and try to learn. What machine learning didn't do there was figure out the game of chess and how what are the rules of the road, how it moves. That's the ontology of chess, right? You know, how a rook moves, how a knight moves, how a pawn moves forward, right? It didn't really need to learn anything more except the rules of the road. The important thing that, you know, I think data engineers have to figure out for their specific domain is going to be literally inventing those rules of the road for the specific use case that you're trying to understand. That AI is not good at it because there's so many possibilities that it doesn't really know, and it's hard to know what it is that you or some other person is going to value. You still have to figure out what you're optimizing for, right? And so setting the rules of the roads, creating the game of chess, the rules of chess, that's part of what you got to do. So if it's in customer service, or if it's in launching a rocket ship, or if it's on going to Mars tomorrow, whatever it is, right? You have to set those parameters and the rules of the road, and then let your AI learn that so that it can become very good at it. So data engineering, data science, machine learning, I think all of those in some ways go hand in hand. I wouldn't discount any of them, but learning as much as you can as a translational science is going to be really important.
One more question. We almost have time. I got a question actually.
Yeah.
So we spoke about prompt engineering, right? With prompt engineering, is there any, how would someone honestly get into that from a standpoint where they don't have an actual like engineering background or in ML or data science, right? Maybe you're an econ grad or econ like studying. Okay, it's like how would I get into that?
So econ is incredibly important, guys, right? And I'm probably talking to a room full of computer scientists and data scientists here, but economics is kind of like the social science. It helps us put value on things. When we're talking about, the world of chess, that in some ways you could call that in some ways the econometric model, right? But what we're looking at, right, is economics in the world of econometrics. It kind of goes with this theory that we have to model things, kind of the right way, the way to solve the problems with the right model. Computer science has taken a brute force approach and saying, well, if there is no right model, there's only the best model. It's the best, the lowest, AOC, the area under the curve, the best RMSE, right? The root mean square error, the best prediction, the best whatever. And the problem with the computer science method is that a lot of it is becoming not explainable by humans. So the problem is you don't really know what you're getting and how to move the needle for those models. Versus econometrics, you actually have a way to look at that. But if there was one thing I would do, Andrew Ng's course, he has a course on prompt engineering on Coursera. I think that's a great one to take, and I don't think you need an engineering background for it. I think you need an intuitive background of, again, what do you bring to the table against a certain problem, right? So the more domain expertise you have in a certain area, the more you can use prompt engineering to get better outputs out of your AI.
When I was in college. So you guys,
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate you all. Thank you.